Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and today we've got some shower thoughts with Jenny. And so while Jenny was in the shower, she had something pop into her brain, and it goes along the lines of rejection isn't always you getting rejected. Sometimes that person is just rejecting what you want from them. What do you mean?
I mean, that everybody has different needs. I'll read this to you. The energy you put out gives your partners choices. What are you offering? How are you presenting? Are you available or avoidant? Masculine or feminine? Do you have boundaries or no boundaries? People will look to fill their voids, so we need to pay attention to what we offer and what the other person needs. We also may be stuck in old patterns we had with our last partners, so we have to be self aware.
Well, the way I look at rejection is that everybody, men and women, should get used to rejection and failure because that's part of life. When you get rejected or you have a failure, which in essence that's what rejection is you can check that off. You tried that possibility, you extended that invitation, and it did not go your way. The bottom line, as a man, you have to at least show up and extend an invitation, as Zan Piran would say. And the woman can choose to say, yes, that's great. Fuck yeah, I'd love to. Or not if you were the last person on earth. Most women are not going to, overwhelming majority are not going to act that way. Um, Maybe one in 1,000, you just might run into who's just a truly foul bitch and she's like that to anybody. But the bottom line is, when it comes to jobs, careers, even investments, you're gonna fuck up. You're gonna fail. Your ideas are going to be wrong. What you want from that person and what you think they can offer you once you get to know them might have been wrong. And so the idea is you want to learn from your mistakes. You want to learn from your failures. You want to know, what can this teach me? How can I get better next time around because of the failure? So as a man, you should embrace it. You should look forward to it. You should be excited about failure. See what you can learn next.
Right, and don't take it personally because, you might be a really good-looking guy and think that that's all you need. But if somebody's looking for a really intelligent person or someone just to pay their bills or something in another category, and you can't do that for them, that doesn't mean you're not a great guy. It's just like what you thought they were going to want
It's a
was not what they
compatibility
were looking
test.
for. Yeah.
What I've said in many of the videos on pickup or approaching women or whatever, it's you're doing a compatibility test of that person.
Hmm.
Are they interested in buying what you're selling? Which is obviously you're selling yourself. If they're not excited about the product or the service that you provide, then move on to the next. Look for somebody that's excited, ready, willing, able, and open to going on a date with you.
Easy and
My
effortless.
so I had this friend, his name, because he's since passed away, and his name was Ronnie. He was a really interesting dude. I told the story years ago when he was still alive. And so he worked at a defense contractor, and he worked on a very famous missile system. And he was the guy that perfected the targeting of this particular missile system, and how, because basically it involves like mirrors and lasers, and you all the optics involved have to be perfect, because if it's like 1 micron off, your missile could land like a mile away or hit a school or something. And so it needed to be accurate. And so he was just one of those really gifted, brilliant thinkers, I guess, mechanically inclined dudes. And so he figured out how to do that. And but he was also kind of eccentric, and he drank too much, and he showed up at work drunk one too many times, and he got fired from his defense contractor. And then he basically locked himself in his room for about a year and a half, and did nothing but play guitar. Taught himself to play, and because he'd done well, he'd made good money, he didn't have to work. And I remember he got to a point where, and he's kind of a geeky, nerdy, eccentric, kind of weird guy. Like um, my old business partner said that, like, when they were younger, he had this car, and the car had kind of been rusted out. The floorboards were kind of rusted out. And when they were driving on long trips and he had to take a piss, he would just whip his dick out and piss into the floorboards, because it would just run out onto the road because there was so many holes. And he was like, "Hey, it saves time." The guy was just, he was weird. He was
Yeah.
out there, He was one of those nerdy, geeky guys that just kind of looked at it. Oh, everything's a math problem. And so he was sitting in the bar having a beer one time and thinking, I'd like to have a girlfriend. Or it's like, what? And he started thinking, he's like, this just got to be a numbers game. I just got to ask enough women to get a date. And so he's like, I need some data for my analysis, as he used to jokingly say. And then so he proceeded to go to every single woman in the bar. And this was his opener. Would you like to have a date with me? That was his line. Would
That
you like
was
to have a
it.
date with me? And every woman said, no, I have a boyfriend, I'm married,
Not interested.
not interested, no thank you. I'm just here with my girlfriend trying to have a drink and a good time. Leave us alone. And he didn't care. He's like, again, I need data for my analysis. Just that was his voice, the way he said, laughingly. And then literally the very last woman that he went to, he says, would you like to have a date with me? And she said, yeah, I'd like to have a date with you. And so they went out on a date. And he ended up staying with her for the rest of his life. But there was a period of time for a couple of years where, once he had that realization, he was a free spirit. He was, rocking and cocking, as Bobby would say, and sowing his oats. And it just drove her crazy because he was always hooking up with different women. And then eventually he settled down with her after he sowed his oats, and they stayed together until he died. But the point being, the point of the story was, it's just, he didn't give a shit. He was a scientist. He was an engineer. He's like, I just got a math problem. He's like, how many women do I got to approach before I get a date? Is 100,
And
200, 1,000?
he found somebody that matched his energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she saw that he went up to, like, also every chick in there and talked to her. And it shows balls. How many women have ever watched a guy do that? Literally approach every single girl. And was it probably 50 people in a bar, maybe? Just my thought, you're like, what's that guy doing? Is he selling something? Is he selling Amway or insurance? Like, what's he doing? Is he asking to borrow money?
That's great.
And but to him, it was a math problem. He did. It wasn't any great game or pickup tricks or routine. He passed the physical attraction test. He had confidence. Girl had needs, obviously, which he took care of, and he lived out his life. It was an interesting dude. But point being is, you got to be willing to go through the failure and not care. Only get personally. It's a compatibility test. And his compatibility test was asking every woman in that bar that night, are you in or are you out? It doesn't get any. You want to have a date with me or not? Would you like to go on a date with me? Yes, no, maybe. It's like, it's a real short answer. Simple problem. Right, straight to the point. Direct, decisive, got to the point. And it worked. And it continued working, obviously, much to the irritation of the woman he eventually spent his life with.
Because he figured out his theory.
Yeah. He validated his theory. There were some women he was compatible with. And there was enough. All you need is one good one. But you have more opportunities than just one.